Hello and welcome. I'm your host, William Lou. You are listening to the Raptors Reaction Podcast presented by Betway for all your sports betting activities. Hit the QR code that you see on the screen or follow the link you see in the description of the episode. Raptors lose tonight by a score of 117 to 105. A couple things actually to discuss in this one, because coming into the Raptor Pistons game, I was asking myself one question, which was, what could I possibly say on the postgame show that would interest people? I felt like there was not a lot going into the game, quite frankly. They're probably going to rest a couple guys. We knew that RJ played last night, so he wasn't going to play. Ochai played last night, so he's not going to play. Scotty looked pretty banged up, obviously, with the hand issues, so tonight he didn't play. On the Pistons side, you didn't even get Cade Cunningham. He's been sitting out the last couple games here. So what could I realistically interest people in discussing and talking about on a post-game show on a Friday night? And quite frankly, I think the Raptors actually gave us a couple of interesting things to discuss. I think first off, all props to the two rookies, once again, Jacoby Walter and Jamal Shead, but especially Jacoby Walter, who was the Raptors' best player tonight. Really, really impressive effort from Jacoby. 22 points in 32 minutes in the start. 8 of 14 from the field, 4 of 7 from 3 steals as well. And I think that as much as anybody had it going for the Raptors, I would say it was Jacoby Walter, who managed to be the only starter who was not a minus on the night. Again, the Raptors obviously lost this game by 12 points. Jacoby, in his 32 minutes, they actually played it even, largely because Jacoby was the one providing that push, providing that thrust. Even the moments where the Raptors got down big and they started the third quarter really terribly. The Raptors had already closed the first half poorly, but coming out of halftime, the Raptors, with absolutely no response, they gave up 2 layups right away, and Darko called a timeout within the first minute of the second half. He's unhappy if he does that, because the Raptors were just bullshitting out there. And so, that actually extended into a Pistons lead that eventually got them up by 20 some odd points. And it really wasn't until Jacoby Walter sparked a 9-0 run there, knocking down 2 threes of his own, coupled with a Jamal Shead 3, that really brought the game back into a point where it was competitive. The Raptors also made it a 4-point game, and a couple of moments there where they just missed a couple of opportunities. And without that, the Raptors really could have just been a blowout. This could have been a very boring game. But I really do salute Jacoby for the strong play that he has provided down the stretch here, because it's giving you a lot of optimism for his future. Because I think where this differs a little bit from what Grady Dick was doing at the start of the season, because at the start of the year, if you remember, Jacoby Walter had injured his shoulder in training camp, so he didn't play in a lot of training camp, missed all of preseason, came back, made his debut, tore his shoulder again, so it needed just a lot of time for him to get right. Then he went to the G League. It's not that unusual in terms of a trajectory for a rookie, but you just didn't see a lot of him at the start of the season. And of course, due to other injuries across the board with guys like IQ and Scotty missed time as well, you saw Grady Dick start for the majority of the first half of the season, and that's what powered his run into being the only all-star representative for the Raptors, him going to the Rising Stars game as a sophomore, and that was a really great moment. And Grady certainly had multiple 20-point games. He even had a 30-point game. He set his career high a couple of times, and it was great to see. But I think what's separating a little bit of what Jacoby's doing towards the end of the season, where he's getting the chance because other guys like Grady have been injured, and they've been resting other guys for tanking purposes, what separates this finish to the season with Jacoby versus someone like Grady Dick is the defensive end of the floor. Jacoby is really not just holding his own and guarding his man and applying the ball pressure and the defensive style that the Raptors really like to play with. And you've seen recently the Raptors defensively have largely succeeded based on forcing turnovers. The rest of the defense isn't that good, to be honest. They miss rotations. They're soft at the rim, I find. They don't really hold down the offensive glass. They got bullied in 2 straight games here on back-to-back nights by Portland and now by Detroit, who just manhandled the Raptors across the board. But where they actually do succeed defensively is with forcing turnovers and ball pressure. And the two guys who are best at that are actually Jamal Shead and Jacoby Walter. And Jacoby continues to just provide that defensive stability where, he's actually getting stops. There's one play tonight that was so impressive to me. because there was a play where I think the Raptors scored. The Pistons got a quick inbound. They were trying to hit it ahead, and it was a 2-on-1 fast break where Jacoby was actually the last man back. He was covering Simone Fontecchio in one corner. He saw the head-to-head pass made to Dennis Schroeder, and he literally rotated across the entire half of the court, got basically near half court, and picked off the pass like full, like just like a safety, basically, in football. Like picked it off and then pushed it the other way, and he missed a three, but it was all him stopping on 2-on fast break with a really athletic and heads-up play. I think that's the separating factor to me because, you know, as much as I really like Grady and I really think that he's had a successful season, and it's unfortunate that tonight he was actually ruled out for the rest of the year. He's got a bone bruise. If you remember back to the start of March in Orlando, he had that horrible collision under the basket, and that's led him to have like literally 3 injuries in that play. That ended his season. But like, there is a competition between those two in terms of who's going to be that future shooting guard for the Raptors. And I think both of them have shown their merits. But what Jacoby is doing right now is really eye-opening because, yes, he can combine the shot making. Maybe it's not as like aggressive as Grady is. Grady obviously was flying off of those screens and, you know, he was like running full speed into catch and shoot threes like JJ Redick and curling to the basket, and he has more size. But what Jacoby has done is, you know, he's got a little bit more of that ball handling. He's got the ability to play slower. Grady plays really fast, but Jacoby can play slower, change speeds, pump fake and stuff like that. But then also he can knock down the three as well. And quite frankly, the defensive end of the floor is a clear win to Jacoby. So, you know, not to really make it about someone else, but I thought Jacoby played really well, and he continues to show that he was the right pick for the Raptors at the 19th pick. I think that if it wasn't for the lost first half of the season for Jacoby, I think there's a real chance that, given the quality of player that he is, could have made an outside chance at an all-rookie second team. You know, he's been playing at a really, really nice level of late. And I think I'm just really, you know, intrigued by his two-way potential. I would love to see him, you know, continue to sort of like expand his game. You're seeing the last couple games here, sometimes, especially when IQ gets the night off, they'll actually run a little bit of Jacoby playing backup point guard, or at least like kind of being the off guard to a guy like Jamal Shead. But of course, Jamal's not going to control every possession. And you're seeing Jacoby even initiate possessions, run a couple pick and rolls, get to his own shot. I actually really, really like that kind of potential because he has that handle. He's strong too. He's wiry. And I think that really the only thing for me is just like, if he gets even stronger, you know, naturally fills out, because of course he's like a freshman, you know, last year in Baylor. Now he comes to the NBA. You know, he's still slight, but like the more he puts on a couple more pounds, you saw the difference even for a guy like Grady Dick, how he put on, I think, 10 pounds between his rookie year and his sophomore year, and how much that allowed him to play through more contact and be more aggressive and more physical, and get to his spots a little bit better. I think the same thing will happen with Jacoby, but I also like his quickness, his foot speed, his ability to pressure, the willingness to play defense. I just really, really enjoyed his game tonight. So Jacoby, I thought, was a huge positive. I mean, another big positive to me was just Jamal Shead, who, you know, is just steady every single night. Congratulations to Jamal. He actually passed Jose Calderon for the second most assists as a rookie by a member of the Toronto Raptors. I mean, it's basically impossible to pass Damon Stoudemire. What he did as a rookie, he won Rookie of the Year, was the Raptors' first ever pick. And, you know, Mighty Mouse was awesome. Like, you know, I think he averaged like 7 assists per game and played the whole season as a rookie. I mean, you're just not going to touch that assist record anytime soon. But, you know, Jamal has now passed a guy like Jose Calderon, who's one of the best passers and one of the best point guards in franchise history, at least just in the rookie season. And I think Jamal continues to showcase what he's got. I mean, similar to what Jacoby does. I mean, Jamal forces a lot of turnovers. You've seen the pressure. I think the personality, people gravitate towards Jamal. He's a natural leader. When he's on the floor, he's obviously figured out that he can get the catch and shoot three, and he knocked one of those down tonight. But he's all that in-between game where he's able to play through a bit of physicality. Like, he's smart. He knows how to, like, get shots off in unorthodox angles. You know, one thing where we're always concerned about small guards is, like, how are you going to get your offense off, especially in the paint? Do you have a way to counter that? Because obviously you're not going to be dunking the ball that much. You're not going to be getting easy layups that much. You need to be able to shoot floaters and runners and, you know, mid-range pull-ups and stuff like that. And you're seeing a lot of that from Jamal. You know, even today I saw him, he made a play where he drove it a little bit deep, was stuck under the basket. And I was like, is he even going to get a shot off here, or is he going to have to reset and, you know, whatever, take the pressure off the defense? And what he did was, like, pivot, 2 feet, turned around, and then jumped backwards, and then faded for a little short, like 5-foot jumper. And I just thought that was a really smart move in that circumstance where he looked like he was stuck, but he has an ability to make those in-between shots. He has a little push floater. He can finish with a couple of and ones. He knows how to use that speed to get downhill, touch the paint. And obviously, if the defense rotates to cover him, he's very good at making the outside pass. Tonight, he had 9 assists with no turnovers. That's really good. Like, the biggest issue with Jamal was with the playmaking. He would turn the ball over a lot with the passing and the he just does a lot of jump passing, which I feel like obviously makes it a little bit more difficult for you to make accurate passes. You're also really committed to throwing a pass because otherwise there's a turnover, you come down. But also, like, he was just a little bit inaccurate with the passing, and that led to some high turnovers early in the season. I think he's figured that out. I think he's like really, really brought the turnovers down to a minimum. And tonight, Detroit's defense was really good. And they've been really physical. And I thought Jamal still was able to give you 14 points and 9 assists off the bench. And so, I mean, Jamal, they're even looking into whether or not he could play in 2 point guard lineups, which is interesting because the Raptors used to do that a ton back in the day when obviously the Raptors had Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet. That's, basically how we beat Milwaukee and then eventually Golden State in the finals in 2019. And of course, the following season, they started both Kyle and Fred for the next 2 seasons as well in Tampa too. But that was like our go-to look, was having those 2 point guard lineups. Even before that, when they had, Kyle and Lou Williams together, or Kyle and Corey Joseph together, or Gravis Vasquez and Lou Williams together. Like, the Raptors have been running 2 point guard lineups like for the last decade plus, but they haven't been doing it as much recently. Partially because they went to Division 6-9, so they just didn't have enough point guards. And now recently, they only have 2 healthy point guards. But again, you see those 2 guys actually sometimes play together. And I think that defensively, that might be a bit of a challenge when you play 2 smaller guys. But I think Jamal has done such a good job of pressuring, getting under guys, doing a great job. I mean, last game, for example, he was guarding Delano Banton. And Delano's 6'9", but, who got the best of him defensively? It was Jamal, because he was, like, pesky and forcing him to spin, turn over the ball and stuff like that. So pressuring the handle. He's just tough. But if he could show that he can play in 2 point guard lineups as well, that even gives more of an avenue for Jamal to get more minutes. But ultimately, I thought he played really, really well tonight. And again, 9 assists against no turnovers against a really physical Pistons team is really good. And so those are all really good to me. I think where this game was lost, I mean, most importantly, it was lost by, like, Orlando Robinson played one of the worst games I've seen. And I'm not going to try to, slag him or anything. Like, I'm not expecting that much from Orlando. But at the same time, he committed 4 fouls in the first half. He kept getting beat all over the floor physically, on the offensive end, not being able to score at the rim, and on the defensive end, getting beat at the rim, getting beat for rebounds as well. Like, tonight, he had 3 rebounds in his 16 minutes. It's not enough against a Pistons team that was all over the glass, right? So I feel like, he was like, I mean, it only says -10 in the box score, but trust me, it was a big minus. I thought Mobo offensively had a lot of record scratch moments because he refused to shoot the 3 or even be aggressive on offense, that you really didn't see any chance for him to, basically, like, the Detroit was able to help off of him all the time. And it really screwed up the spacing, where because you had Mobo and Jakob playing together in that combination in the front court, that's 2 guys you don't need to really guard. And especially with Mobo, I mean, at least Jakob, he's got a concern of, like, he's rolling, he's got the push shot, stuff like that. Tonight, Jakob was actually quite off with the push shot. But with Mobo, it's like you don't have to guard him at all. And so that freed up a super athlete in Asar Thompson to be able to fly around and contest and make all sorts of defensive plays that really, made it difficult for the rest of the team to score offense. So those 2 guys. But I think the other part for me was just like, IQ turned it around a little bit. IQ turned it around in the start of the 4th quarter, and he made a couple of shots, and, those were good. But I thought he really struggled to play through physicality today. And I think that maybe not for this season, but long term, if the Raptors hopefully get back into a playoff position, that's something for me that I have a question with down the line, is how is IQ going to be able to play when games get more physical, games get more tight? Because I think offensively tonight, it was, especially the start of the game, was very clear that he was going to run the offense for the starters, and then Jamal and Jacoby could do whatever they want for the second unit. But it was going to be IQ and Jakob running offense for the first quarter. And IQ got off to a pretty bad start. And I felt like he was not really able to, control the game the way you would expect from a lead guard. When he touched the paint, the opportunities for him to finish and score, he missed a couple of chances. But I also didn't feel like he touched the paint enough to, like, actually create enough of an advantage. Granted, he had some slick passes to guys like, Jakob, for example, who would typically convert. Jakob only 5'11" tonight. He probably should have been like 8 for 11. He had some pretty good shots. So he probably missed a couple of assists. And also IQ did have 8 assists on the night. So it's not like he didn't do anything. But especially if you watch the flow of the game and not necessarily the box score of the game, you will see that like there are all these moments of physicality where his instinct isn't to like play through it or to like overcome it, but to almost shy and get around it. It's on both ends of the floor, you know, like small plays like Malik Beasley's going to the rim and he's got a step on him, but you know, IQ is still there. It's like Malik Beasley can drive through him at the basket. That's not great, man. I mean, at minimum, take a foul, right? Like IQ tonight, 0 fouls, or 0 fouls in a game where the Pistons were getting a lot of calls against the Raptors, especially in the first half. Like, you know, Alvin Williams put this out in the broadcast, but there were so many moments where the Raptors could have taken a foul and put the Pistons on the line rather than letting the Pistons dunk the ball like 10 times in a game like this. But I do wonder for me, like long term, if the Raptors get back to a playoff setting, what is IQ going to look like offensively? Because I think he really does struggle with the physicality, you know, like it tails off a lot of his game. And if I think back to the one time IQ did make the playoffs in New York, part of the reason he was taken out of the rotation entirely, and this was obviously a lot, you know, a few years ago, he was younger, it was a totally different team, I totally understand. I think he was also a little banged up, but like the physicality got to him offensively, and he wasn't as effective on that front, and then defensively, he wasn't a plus. So I think these games are actually kind of important for me to like evaluate based on like, okay, we know IQ can certainly go off. We know IQ can certainly have great moments. We know he can be effective offensively. We know he is effective offensively, but it's also like, what can you do against different matchups? One of the things, I mean, hard to compare everyone against Kawhi, but like one of the things that we appreciate most about Kawhi is like, it don't matter which matchup it was. It doesn't matter which opponent it was. It didn't matter what defense it was. He was just going to get his game off. He was going to play his game. And part of the reason he was able to do that is not just because he has supreme skill, but he has supreme strength and physicality and the toughness to play through that. And I just want to see a little bit more of that from IQ. Because if I had to be honest in terms of comparing the two games between tonight, where they're playing the same opponent, between IQ and Jamal, I thought Jamal actually did a better job of playing through that contact and playing through that physicality and quite frankly, playing tougher defensively too, which really does matter in a game like this. Other than that, I thought the only other notable updates to sort of pass along here, you know, there was an update from the Raptors in terms of Brandon Ingram's availability. Not sure, Jerome, did you get a chance to transcribe this or no? Okay, sorry, no, it's all good. So I'll just pass it along. So pregame, Darko did actually give an update on Brandon Ingram, and it's actually quite different from the previous Brandon Ingram updates that we've gotten. He sounded really positive in this one. He said that, you know, Brandon's making good strides. They're hoping that Brandon gets into some practices where they're able to actually practice with some contact. And he does obviously acknowledge that there is going to be less time remaining on the season in terms of like there's only about a week and a half left. And so it's not exactly like, you know, they can just afford to wait. But also at the same time, it didn't sound like a hard no in terms of like whether or not he could actually get on the court at some point this season. Now, granted, in the same interview, Darko did say that they, you know, determined because of the bone bruise that Grady Dick has that he's going to be shut down for this season. So it's not like, you know, that option isn't there. But I thought it was actually interesting that they kept that window open just slightly in terms of just like, Brandon actually is making good progress. They're actually giving tangible updates in terms of like, they're not just like, you know, he's doing work by himself, but, you know, no contact or anything. They're actually hoping for him to get some work in. And again, I don't think that this is coincidental, but the Raptors are pretty much locked in to the 7th position now in the lottery odds. So whether they want to win or lose, there's no cost anymore lottery-wise to winning. So, you know, if they actually do really want to make something happen for BI where he's able to get in his debut before obviously the end of the season, that would be kind of interesting. And I would love to see if you guys would actually want to get a chance to get a peek at what Ingram looks like with this team. We're not going to obviously judge it, you know, entirely because it'll be like maybe 1 or 2 games that he gets into and maybe he'll play at full speed, but realistically probably not after sitting up, you know, since middle of December with the ankle injury. But ultimately it would be kind of cool. At least maybe it'll be one tiny thing to dangle towards the end of the season. But that was actually kind of cool to see that update from Darko potentially. You know, I think this, Yeah, this was the Brandon Ingram update from Josh Lewenberger. Brandon Ingram update. Rajakovic says he's been able to do more on the court and is trending in the right direction. They're hoping that he'll be cleared for contact and go through a full practice next week, but still sounds unlikely that he'll play again this season. I don't know. I think I'm not questioning Josh's reporting because we were literally in the same room and we heard the same quotes and he's summarizing it here. But to me, it sounded a little bit more positive than this. But again, there's no guarantee that he actually does finish the season. One thing I actually did ask Darko about too was, he did mention obviously in the previous game against Portland before the game that, he's like, well, part of the reason we haven't sat Scotty, he's so competitive and he wants to play through it and they really, really want to give him more reps to play and et cetera, et cetera. And I did ask him the question of like, how did you actually broach the conversation with these guys in terms of you're, gonna obviously tonight Scotty got to sit, but like you've been resting IQ healthy, you've been resting Jakob Poeltl healthy, you've been giving RJ, alternate nights off. Chris Boucher has not played at all for months. Ochai Agbaji is now getting more on the rest plan, and I did ask him in terms of like, how do you tell healthy players to sit, and if that's difficult because everyone is so competitive. And Darko did say, quote, we talked to our guys, we have complete transparency, we met some time ago and explained to them what the plan is for the rest of the season. We have amazing guys, amazing professionals, and they complied with that. And quite frankly, I'm not really sure that he could have really said anything else, because he's not exactly going to be like, oh yeah, they fought me, but like I'm going to put my foot down, or they're super happy to sit. All those things sound kind of bad, depending on sort of how people can interpret it. But I do think the one nugget there is that like this is a concerted plan. This is evidence of a concerted plan where about a month ago when this selective resting started happening, there clearly was conversations that took place between the organization and the players, especially the veteran players, especially the players who drive winning, to say, hey, we are going to give chances to the young guys and you guys are going to sit. And clearly those conversations did take place. The one exception to that is Scotty, who obviously has continued to play, but they've given their reasons as to why Scotty has played. But ultimately, I suppose I'm not surprised. You know what I mean? And quite frankly, if the team tells you to sit and you're under contract, what can you really do about it? But ultimately, at the same time, we also know that, the main reason is because the Raptors wanted to play for the odds, and the lottery is what it is. They're going to be 7th position. We could bring up the pie chart later on if we want to, the worst pie chart of our time. But that's pretty much it. Raps played tough. I mean, Pistons, honestly, congrats to them. I'm actually really happy for the Pistons. They're having essentially their version of the 2013-2014 season for the Raptors, where things really broke out in the right way. They had a couple veterans. That season, I remember, obviously, the Rudy Gay trade. Everyone remembers that. But it's not just the Rudy Gay subtraction. It really was the addition of several rotation pieces. They brought back Gravis Vasquez, who was pretty good. They brought back John Salmons, who wasn't that good, but ultimately still better than the Raptors had at that time. Even a guy like Chuck Hayes, Patrick Patterson, of course, like, they added all of a sudden a bunch of veteran players who actually knew how to play and who could fill out their rotation, because the rotation at that time was quite thin. And that added depth and that element of surprise mixed with the existing young players really did propel them to like a miracle season. And it's really one of my favorite Raptor seasons of all time, that 2013-14 season. And that's kind of what's happened with the Pistons. Like, the Pistons already had a lot of young talent on the roster already. Obviously Kate Cunningham being the number 1 overall pick. The Raptors didn't. Well, I guess the Raptors had Bargnani at the start of that season, except they traded him. But like, you know what I mean? Like, but they've had like Jalen Duren, they've had Asar Thompson, they've had like young players, like Marcus Sasser. Like, these guys have been around with Cade, but they've added the veteran mix. I thought Dennis Schroeder played great for them. He closed the game out for them. Right, Malik Beasley, I thought he was super aggressive, and he actually played a pretty good game for them. Tim Hardaway Jr. was knocking out crazy buzzer beaters, to end the first half, like stuff like that. Like, those little veterans, and even a Paul Reed, even a Simone Fontecchio, it doesn't sound like they're big names, just like it didn't really sound like Gravis Vasquez and Patrick Patterson and Chuck Hayes and John Salmons are big names, but sometimes that's all it really takes. And I think more than anything else, it's about a young team deciding to play defense and really starting to embrace that identity of being tough, playing hard night in, night out, no compromises. The Pistons tonight missed their best player, and they still played hard as hell, and they still went on the road, and they still beat the Raptors. And I want to say a huge congrats to the Pistons, because they played their identity no matter what. They're still young. They make lots of mistakes. Like, they look beatable tonight, But ultimately, they got the win, and now the Pistons are 43-34. They're the biggest surprise of the season, and they have now clinched the top 6 playoff spot, which is an incredible achievement for a Pistons team that really has only made the playoffs, I think, twice in the last decade. So full credit to the Pistons and the job that they've done there. So that's it for the game. We're going to bring in producer Jerome Cheng. What up, dog?
Hello. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. What's that 6-pack? Actually, first off, what's the score?
Well, that's the first item in the 6-pack. So,
okay. All right.
First item in the 6-pack, checking in from the UConn UCLA game. UConn is up 42-22 at half.
Wow.
So, it's AZ Fudd. It's got 19 points on the game, was hot from the start. Lauren Betts, 11 points, not doing so strong. Honestly, UConn's looking pretty good at this point. I haven't gotten a chance to watch since the first quarter as we've been here.
Wow.
But the score is indicating,
man.
I know. The score is indicating that things are looking good for UConn. So let's see how it goes. Paige Beckers, 6 points at the moment.
Hey, that's why you play on a super team, man. You know.
All
right.
Up next on
item number 2.
Item number 2, checking in on scores. Alexander Ovechkin ties Wayne Gretzky's scoring record in one less game. I saw you retweeted it on your account as well, Will. Were you paying attention? Were you watching along?
I was watching along after he had the second goal. So tonight he came into the game needing 2 goals to tie Wayne Gretzky and a whole hat trick to pass Wayne Gretzky.
That's right.
He scored the first goal, then he scored the second goal, and I saw the timeline. And at that point, obviously, the Raptors game was still going on, Raptors Pistons in the fourth quarter, but I had to do the split screen thing. And Ovechkin actually got like at least 5 shots potentially
to break the record, or
like there were never like wide open shots, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But still had 5
to
shots.
Beat the record in one game less would have been incredible. I mean, tying it in one game less is
it was pretty incredible. I mean, that, by the way, his second goal was actually the game-winning goal as well, because they actually won the game. The Capitals beat the Blackhawks 5-3. But it was actually really cool. I mean, it's kind of amazing. Like in my entire life as a sports fan, like
you've seen 2 big scoring records broken.
Yeah, no, that in the last 2 years, obviously with LeBron passing Kareem, but it's like it's the longevity that signifies. It's the greatness, but the longevity. It's like my entire sporting life, LeBron has been dominating the NBA. And in my entire sporting life, like Alexander Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby have been dominating the NHL. And it's like, that to me is like so awesome. Like the fact that, I mean, I don't even follow hockey anymore. I used to be much more bigger into it. But like the fact that...
Tune in to the number of hockey podcasts on the Nation Network to hear more in-depth analysis about this. Yes.
The Raptors are so down bad, we got to do Jay's content and hockey content. But like, no, the fact that like even recently we checked in on Sidney Crosby and I'm like, this guy's still a point per game and he's still one of the best defensive forwards in the league. Like that's incredible to me. And in fact, I mean, Ovechkin, the way he looks right now, like he's like completely gray beard, everything like that. But it's like that Ovechkin 8 hockey jersey is like probably the number 1 hockey jersey I want to own, man. Like all-time great. That goes without saying. And I mean, one more goal next game, he'll literally pass Wayne Gretzky for most goals. Like I can't believe we're alive to see that. You know what I mean?
There you go. All right. Well, in the spirit of playing the Detroit Pistons today, I am going to pull up a tweet that came across on my timeline. I want to say yesterday. So it would have made yesterday's pack, but it actually works perfectly for today. I just want you to check this fit out.
What?
Person saying, job interview today. Look at this fit. I'm going to get you a proper look at the image right here.
Brother, that is one of the worst hairlines I've ever seen.
It's one of the worst hairlines I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
He's wearing Nike slides. I mean, for people that are listening in right now, you're not getting a chance to see one of the most insane looking people I've ever seen. If they are really applying for a job, what job could they possibly apply for here?
This is this is kind of incredible. Like all the way around, it's incredible. Is that so? Obviously, the 33 Pistons. That's a Grant Hill. But like, is that a shirt?
I think it's a T-shirt. I do have a close-up that I can also pull for you. Give me a second.
Oh man, this looks like shouts to the chat. Someone said this looks like the haircut that Dennis Schroeder used to have. with the hairline. There's an infamous picture of Dennis Schroeder as a member of the Atlanta Hawks, and the hairline is like, if it's midnight for this guy, it was probably like 2 a.m. for like this might be 3 a.m. Like this is this is Alex Wong bedtime type hairline. But yeah, this is a tough one. I mean, I hope he got the job, but I mean, I don't know. Like, don't you got to put on at least a collared shirt for a job interview? No, like is that? So, I haven't done a job interview in a minute. Before? Yeah, like I haven't done one in a minute, but don't you still have that's still the steez, right? Like you still got to put on a collared shirt, maybe a tie.
I would think so. Yeah. When was the last time you had a real job interview?
Real job interview? I would say that was 2019. I was interviewing for the job to cover the Toronto Raptors for Yahoo Sports Canada, the job that changed my life.
Do you remember your fit?
Yeah, I remember my fit. I remember I got a haircut. I remember I put on a collared shirt. I put on some H&M slack pants, put on a belt.
Nice. Yeah.
And I sat through 4 rounds of interviews, and
I mean, rounds.
I knew I was the preferred candidate. Like, with a job like that, there aren't that many candidates, but I was still really, really hoping to get it. And that was the first time I got paid exclusively to cover the Raptors. And that was also I started that job in middle of March, and within the first month, the Raptors playoffs had started, and I was at every single playoff game from that point onward, which is amazing. Still the highlight of my career. So timing-wise was perfect. Always grateful to Yahoo Sports Canada. Big shouts to Dan Tolman. Took a huge chance on me, and really haven't looked back since. Didn't really interview for the Sportsnet job. I'm not gonna lie. At that point, it was like, we want to build the show around you. I'm like, okay, perfect.
Yeah, so, when you enter in with a show called The Raptors Show with Will Lou, I don't know that there were other applicants for that situation.
No, but it was crazy too, because again, shouts to Dan, but like,
yeah,
at that time they were like, we want to call it The Raptors Show. I'm like, okay, no problem. And then they were like, we want to put your name in it, and I was like, oh man, I don't know, that feels so like forward, you know what I mean? I wasn't really like, I didn't really want to be the headliner, and then they were like, it's gonna be good for, like, we actually think it's really gonna be good for your value and your profile. And so it was almost like they pushed me into doing it. But yeah, that turned out to be absolutely the right call. So,
right. No, it's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, eternally grateful for the 2 opportunities at Yahoo and at Sportsnet. So
no, without question.
But I haven't done an actual job interview since 2019. What about you, man? When was the last time you interviewed?
I mean, I did interview for the Nation Network job, but it was a Zoom interview. So I just did it. I think I was visiting my parents at the time when I was doing it, but I just did it on a Zoom. Yeah, my last 2 jobs were, I think the last time I actually interviewed for a job, it was my internship for MLSC.
Okay.
Which I want to say I probably pulled up in maybe like I might have just done like a shirt cardigan situation. Like nothing too, it's an internship. I don't know. It's nothing too crazy, but yeah, all the other ones I did, because like for the Athletic, it's a remote job. So again, I was doing it remotely. I might have worn something halfway decent, just like above with sweatpants under. Who knows? But yeah, it's been a minute. It's kind of crazy. I mean, like it speaks to, in I think both of our cases, like how fortunate we were, and how and how things were going, that we haven't necessarily needed to like really do official job application / interviewing to get to where we are in our more recent stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, we are pretty lucky. Like, I think that as far as like success stories go in sports media wise, like I feel like we've been really lucky to have the opportunities. But I also think we fully deserve those opportunities. I know how hard you work, and I know certainly how hard I've worked with that as well. But the only other interview I remember, well, that's not true. I've done other like random summer jobs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I had a whole other career before doing.
Yeah, you had a whole other career, which we won't actually get into the details.
No, we could do that another time.
But I remember interviewing for The Score. That was actually the first job I got in sports media. That was the first time I got. Actually, I wasn't even graduated from university yet. I was in my 5th year, and I had already been writing at Raps Republic at that point, just blogging. And I was still in school. I was still doing my school newspaper, which was also a job. I guess I interviewed for that too. But Blake Murphy, who was running Raptors Republic at that time, who was also working at The Score, actually let me know that there was going to be an expansion at The Score. They wanted to hire a couple more NBA news editors, and I was like, oh, this is actually this is actually perfect for me. Like I really, the number one question you're asking yourself in the 5th year of undergrad is like, when can I get a job, and what kind of job is it going to be? And I got the recommendation from Blake, which I think was huge at that time. I actually remember asking Eric Kareen once for a recommendation, which was kind of nuts considering the fact that like Eric didn't even know me at all. But I was just trying to put together something because my resume actually had absolutely nothing on it of value to that job I was applying for. And I just remember like being at the score that was King and Spadina, 500 King, the old office. And I was at the Starbucks for like an hour before the interview, just like preparing, going over my notes over and over again. I just remember like getting so nervous that like I sweat through my t-shirt. And I like went to the bathroom and like changed and stuff like that. I was like, damn, like this was like, it was like make or break. You know what I mean? I was like Eminem in 8 Mile in that Starbucks bathroom. And yeah, that was actually my first job in sports, which was great, man. Shouts to I mean, the salary was crazy. It was like $35K. It was tough.
Let's go. Let's go.
It's okay.
I mean, if that makes you feel any better, my internship
man.
was $50 stipend per week for travel.
50 per week for travel? They're like, here's a bus pass.
Yeah.
Goodness. Okay, never mind. I won't complain about 35. The 35 was more than fine, actually. I was happy to make $14.50 an hour or whatever.
Speaking about people who are working very hard at their job, the NBA MVP ladder has been updated this week, and I was just really interested in seeing it. So obviously you got Shea and Jokic at the top were the two, and I was wondering if you can name who you would think would make up the rest of those 10, because I feel like there's one name in here that I'm like surprised but excited to see.
Wait, so hold on.
So we're
talking about the top 10 of the MVP ladder right now?
Yes.
And
it was updated today on
Shea
NBA.com.
and Jokic. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, obviously those two are in contention.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum, I'm assuming, is third.
Jason Tatum's at 4.
Jason is at 4. Okay. Giannis is in there.
He's in there at 3.
Giannis at 3. I don't know. Giannis, I mean, the numbers are good, but the impact, I mean, I don't know. The Bucks have just been underwhelming all season.
Mm-hmm.
Although I suppose it did lift the NBA Cup. Remember that?
I forgot. I heard about that on Bill Simmonson's pod, and they were making a point about how you actually forget who won the NBA Cup, and I was like, oh my goodness,
you were like,
wait,
hold on, like who was it?
Yeah.
So okay, Giannis. They got to be someone from Cleveland, so I'm guessing Mitchell.
You got Mitchell at 6.
They always put LeBron in these things.
LeBron is there at 7.
Come on, man. LeBron's not the 7th most. Guys, all right. Propaganda.
All right.
James Harden?
Nope.
No James Harden, huh? I feel like he carried the Clippers a lot this year. Hold on, let me pull up the standings. There's Jalen Brunson. He's not even going to qualify, so he can't be in here.
I guess there might be some situations with qualifications as well.
Is Steph in this list? Because
Steph is there at number 5.
Steph should deserve to be in this list.
Yeah.
Brunson's in this
one
list?
of them is nope. Brunson,
Okay.
I think, is under the just past that. I think he was one of the honorable mentions. One of them played tonight, or at least plays for the Detroit Pistons. I don't know if he played tonight.
Cade was in the
Cade
top 10?
Cunningham's there at 8.
Wow. Okay. I mean, look, the Pistons would be nowhere near the playoffs without Cade. Like, there's no doubt. He's their main offensive engine. So, am I missing just 2 more then?
You got 2 more, 9 and 10.
9 and 10. I mean, there's not really an MVP candidate from Houston. And Memphis, I mean...
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Number 10 is an MVP candidate from Houston.
From Houston?
I know. This is why I brought it up in the first place.
Is it Şengün?
It's Şengün.
It's our boy, Şengün?
Our boy, Alperen Şengün
Wow.
is number 10 in the MVP ladder today.
You know, he doesn't even play some crunch time minutes. Sometimes he's not on the court for crunch time, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see, but obviously, I'm a big Şengün fan. We were watching him together in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Alperen Şengün. Oh, the other person, Anthony Edwards.
Oh, yes. That I just kind of blanked.
But yeah, no. I just.
Oh, by the way,
really
hope Anthony Edwards is good, by the way, man. Do you see he got injured yesterday?
Did he really? Oh, what was it?
So the play was he hit a corner 3 in front of the Nets bench, and he usually backpedals a little bit after the 3. You know, like you hit the 3 and then you're like backpedaling a little bit. You're just admiring your shot.
Right.
So he backpedaled.
I know that.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, Jordi Fernandez, the head coach for Brooklyn, was right behind him.
Right.
And he tripped over. He rolled his ankle on Jordi Fernandez's foot.
Oh, that's like a freak accident too.
And I mean, look, listen. I love Jordy Fernandez. Like what he did for Team Canada. I mean, I have a lot of respect for him. I just like him as a person.
Also, what's he doing that far in the court that could happen?
That's the thing. That's the thing people were pointing out was like because usually you see coaches like at the front of the bench, right? Like,
sure.
You know, or you see coaches maybe at the scorer's table. Sometimes you see them in there. But that's like the zone, front of the bench to the scorer's table. He was like 10 seat. He was almost on the baseline.
Oh, that's crazy.
The way he was standing, and in front of obviously the players sitting there too. So. I mean, look, it's a freak accident, things like that. I really hope that this does not affect Anthony
you wouldn't
Edwards
be questioning where he's positioned until something like that happens. So, like, for all we know, we can look at so many coaches and realize they're actually in the worst positions, but none of them have caused an injury to an NBA player.
Right.
Yeah.
I also find that the player-coach interactions on the sidelines are always, quite weird every time it happens.
Right.
Like, there is the infamous Jason Kidd running out of bounds into Mike Woodson to get a technical foul. That's the all-timer for me. But there's also Jason Kidd telling, I think Marshawn Brooks or somebody to, like, bump him while he was holding a cup of soda so that it would spill water on the court. Yeah. And they'll have to stop the game to clean it up, and that way he can get himself an extra timeout because the Nets were out of timeouts. So Jason Kidd is actually the all-time sideline coach guy. But,
man. But yeah, Alperen Şengün, top 10 player in the NBA right now.
I mean, that's not really the case.
That's not a thing. I guess like because now that we have things like the 65 game minimum, there are probably players that should be in there. But no, to be even in like top 10 for the MVP race is like it's pretty wild. So
by the way, huge credit to I didn't watch this game because it was the same time as the Raptors game, but the Rockets actually beat the Thunder tonight, which is super impressive. The Thunder only have 13 losses on the season, and our boy Şengün 31 points, 34 minutes.
There you go.
MVP type numbers. Shea, by the way, only 22 points tonight.
Outscoring the MVP.
Only 2 free throws for Shea? What? Okay. What?
Is that a preview of the playoffs?
That's kind of nuts, man.
That's kind of nuts. Yeah. All right, on to the next item here. As you know, Alex and I have been getting really into WWE and wrestling of late. Mm-hmm. And therefore, my timeline on Twitter is a lot of basketball, but also a lot of wrestling clips, podcast clips, things like that. So there was definitely a period where I had not been watching. I just only recently got into it. But there was a former women's wrestler / personality, Kelly, who was getting interviewed on a podcast. And it doesn't really matter what she's saying. It's actually whose show she's on that shocked me. And so I'm going to play the clip for you. You don't actually need to hear it. I took the audio off of it. But I want you to guess which former NBA player do you think she is talking to on their podcast, as apparently everyone has a podcast now. I'll give you one guess, and then we'll play the video.
So she's a former wrestler?
She's a former wrestler.
And she's talking to an active
And she's
NBA
talking
player?
about something in wrestling that happened before. As far as I know, I don't think she has any real affiliation to, like, basketball. But she's a guest on a podcast for a former NBA player.
Wow, that really narrows it down to 600 players.
I know. And the reason why I picked this is because I'm just like, this guy too? So give me any wild guess.
Wow.
It's not one of the ones that we like know and talk about often. So think about any player that you think might have a podcast.
Is it the Zach Randolph and Tony Allen Out the Mud podcast?
It is not that. Let's play the clip
Young
for
started
you.
a firestorm about customs on?
Oh, no. It's here, let's play the clip for you.
That's content, don't worry.
So this is her talking, and you'll see them react in just a moment. She's talking through, switching cameras in a couple of seconds here. Byron Scott has a podcast.
Byron Scott? What's the Byron Scott podcast called?
It's called the Byron Scott Fast Break podcast, which is apparently his second podcast, or at least not his first one. He does it with a person. Oh, I forgot the person's name now. But
is it a white co-host guy?
No, I think they used to be like a former DJ or something affiliated with the Lakers back in the day.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Byron Scott.
Okay. You know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I think I saw some clips recently of like Magic Johnson talking to Byron Scott on a podcast. So that must have been Byron Scott's podcast. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you don't think about it. I guess it kind of makes
very
sense with
modern
the LA affiliation. Yeah. But did he do broadcasts? I don't even remember him being very much like in the media space.
Well, he was coaching for a long time.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a good question. Honestly, I feel like coaches should do more pods.
Yeah.
Because I do appreciate former players having shows, but I find coaches, number one, to be less like, let's say, egotistical. Because I feel like a lot of these former player podcasts are just like boasting about how good they were and stuff like that, which I'm like, I mean, like, yo,
Right.
listen, like I don't want to hear Brandon Jennings talking about how he's better than who. I'm like, I saw Brandon Jennings very closely, man. He's fine. But like, I feel like coaches also are just generally a little bit more eloquent because they're so used to talking and they're so used to explaining their perspectives. And then they also have great stories because a lot of these coaches are also former players as well, like a guy like Byron Scott. So I would love to see like more former coaches. Actually, look, a podcast I would love to hear is Stan Van Gundy and Jeff Van Gundy podcast.
Okay. Yeah. Well, here, I'm loading the YouTube page for Byron Scott's Fast Break.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which is Byron Scott and host Kid J run the floor in this fast-paced basketball podcast. Listen in as they not just talk about the modern NBA, but go behind the scenes of the Lakers dynasty, women's basketball, and international sports.
Love that. Yeah, it's great.
Kid J, I'm pretty sure Kid J is at least like 40 or 50 years old.
Okay.
But
nice.
either way, the other thing that's really interesting about it, though, is that, like, yeah, there's Magic Johnson, but as you can see here, that's Kelly that I'm scrolling through. But, like, he's interviewing, there's an actor from the original Fast and Furious.
Okay.
There's John Sally, I guess, in this episode here, popular videos. This might be the director of Stomp the Yard. It's very interesting. It's like,
it's like
a
a very
wide
LA
range
kind of
of different
thing.
things. Samuel L. Jackson.
Okay.
Which is like, I think it's a lot of it has to do with the fact, like you said, it's a very LA thing.
That's kind of fire, man.
Yeah.
That's Byron Scott.
Shout out to Byron Scott, but very shocked by it.
Yeah.
I think that's 5, so we're on to our final item here.
Okay.
Cooper Flagg wins the AP Men's College Basketball Player of the Year. He's one of only there are 3 other freshmen that have done it before. Do you want to take a stab at who you think those freshmen were?
3 other freshmen all time have won. That's it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kareem. Kareem has to be the greatest college basketball. What? Kareem's the greatest college basketball player of all time.
That might not have been an award or something.
The award might not have
time.
existed.
Yeah.
Okay. Did Zion win this award?
Zion is one of them.
I mean,
I know. It's really crazy to think.
Crazy good freshman? Like, did Tim Duncan win this for
No.
like, wow.
I know. And then also, like, I guess Tim Duncan had multiple years. Like, I don't know.
No, but I just assumed
In
he
his
was great as a
freshman year.
freshman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, fair.
Carmelo?
No.
What? He literally won the tournament for Syracuse.
Yeah.
I guess that's not. I guess it's a regular season award, quote unquote, not an NCAA tournament award. But yeah, I don't know, man.
They are active players in the league right now. I'll give you that if that helps.
Anthony Davis.
Yep.
Okay. Anthony Davis is incredible for Kentucky.
Yeah.
Although there is one infamous video of Anthony Davis at Kentucky that he's mostly remembered for. Really despicable hazing. Actually, I don't understand the concept of hazing just in general, but that's a separate conversation to have with somebody who didn't go to St. Mike's. He was not involved. Jerome was not involved. He's 100%
I was not involved,
innocent.
and I also was not on the receiving end. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Who's the other guy?
Kevin Durant.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, KD
That
was
makes sense.
insane as a
KD.
freshman. Yeah.
Yeah. But on that note, which brings us to our Betway bet of the night.
Ooh.
Duke Blue Devils to win the men's NCAA championship 2.0. They are the heavy favorite.
Wow. They're heavy favorites.
That's a heavy favorite. Any thoughts on that? And how do you feel our boy Kaman Maluak, future Toronto Raptor, will do in this?
I'm pretty. I mean, as you guys know, I think I said on the show about 3 weeks ago that I don't like watching college basketball. I stand by that statement, by the way. I am a snob when it comes to pro basketball, but yeah, I will be for sure tune into the Final Four. I would love to see Duke. At least play 2 games, so I guess I want to see them win, and then I don't necessarily need to see them win the whole tournament, but I think they certainly are favorites to do so. When you really look at the roster from an NBA perspective, I mean, there's going to be 3 players on their team that's going to be taken in the lottery. Cooper Flagg obviously is going number 1. Kamal Malawach is going to be one of, let's say, a guaranteed top 10 pick. And then Con Knipple is certainly somebody who continues to showcase what he can do. By the way, I've seen a lot of videos of just Con Knipple shooting. Like, they don't even do like shooting competitions, like who can make the most. Him and him and Cooper Flag will just compete on who can get the most swishes.
Oh,
so
wow.
It doesn't even count if it like rims in or if it hits the rim and goes in. Like,
okay,
they compete on just pure swishes. And Con Knipple was actually winning a lot of the shooting battles because he actually is a better shooter than Cooper Flag. So I think he's going to go lottery as well. And then even a guy like Tyrese Proctor, who has come out really strong. He's Australian, but he's a shooting guard, kind of like a Gary Trent Jr., who also went to Duke. But he could potentially sneak in maybe towards the end of the first round. So especially from an NBA perspective, a lot of reason to watch. But yeah, it's Final Four, man. Final Four will be fun.
Final Four will be fun. And
I'll watch it.
If you are enjoying the Final Four and wish to bet on it, make sure you scan the QR code.
There you go. Go with Duke. They're the safe pick.
They're the safe pick. Let's get to some questions.
Let's get to some questions, and it's time now for the Tangerine fan inbox. And ordinarily, I'll let you know that Tangerine is the official bank of the Toronto Raptors, the official partner of WNBA Canada and NBA Canada. But today, I actually want to continue to update you that we will be handing out 3 pairs of tickets, courtesy of Tangerine, as part of their Tangerine Layup contest that they're taking place this weekend, April 5th and April 6th at Stacked Market. Make sure you head out there this weekend. I think it's from 12 to 4 p.m.
Let's play the clip again, Will.
We can get the details here. There you go.
Let's play the clip.
Hitting your goals should not be this complicated. It should be as simple as banking with Tangerine. Take your shot at the Tangerine Layup for a chance to win one of 150 pairs of Raptors tickets. Tangerine, the official bank of the Toronto Raptors and their fans.
There you go. You can win
one
of 150 pairs of tickets this weekend at Stacked Market down at Bathurst and Front this weekend, April 5th, April 6th, between 12 to 4 p.m. But, of course, Tangerine also provided us 3 pairs of tickets to hand out to the listeners of the Hello and Welcome podcast. And, Jerome, I know we have a handy graphic.
Yeah, we do.
There you go. So, in order to win one of 3 pairs of Raptors tickets for the final home game versus the Charlotte Hornets April 9th, this is how you could enter. Number 1, you got to follow at Tangerine Bank on Instagram or X, but we prefer Instagram. Number 2, give Hello and Welcome a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. I think, honestly, if you've already written a review, just send us a picture of your review, obviously. Of course, this could also work on Spotify as well, but you can't necessarily leave ratings or reviews, but you can leave a rating. And then 3, email that screenshot of both following Tangerine Bank and also reviewing our show, and email us at info@hellowelcome.show. We've already gotten quite a number of applicants, and I'm really excited to hand out the winners. But there's just, we got 3 pairs of tickets to give away. So
yeah, we got 3 pairs of tickets to give away.
Should be pretty
Also, we're
straightforward.
aiming to be at Stacked Market on Sunday.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll be there for at least 12 to, let's say, 3-ish, because we have to get to covering the Brooklyn Nets versus the Toronto Raptors afterward. I might sneak away myself to see if I can catch the women's final, which starts at 3. But yeah, we're gonna be there for a couple hours on the day, so definitely come on out, say hello. We're gonna shoot some content out there. We're gonna probably take our hand at shooting at I hear there's a 25-foot high net, that the same that you saw on that commercial.
Man. You got that.
I actually did so because a high school 3 is 19 feet. So that's 6 more feet to cover, which is like not a crazy amount, but I guess it's closer to an NBA 3, maybe something to that effect. But yeah, it's gonna need a little bit to get up there.
No, it's a 25-foot high.
25-foot high. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like in terms of just like, obviously way
No,
different.
you can make a
trajectory, but,
25-footer, no problem, on a 10-foot rim. But on a 25-foot rim, I don't know, man.
Yeah, we'll see what's up. But we're definitely gonna be trying it. Tangerine's probably gonna kick us out from taking too many attempts.
Yeah, this is what usually happens. We get excited. We get invited to basketball activations. Like we were at NBA All-Star, for example, a couple months ago, and we got invited to like the sneak peek of like the media preview of like the crossover, which they have a bunch of like fan activations. And as soon as we saw the court that they put in for the G League showcase, we were like, oh, let's just play basketball now for like half an hour.
It was half an hour. I worked up a considerable. We both worked up a considerable.
I was sweating
sweat.
like crazy, man. I was
We
hooping
did
in jeans.
A full around the world on top of just shooting nonstop. This is the thing
Yes.
that also worked way too well for us. all the volunteers. They had like 5, 6, 7 volunteers just catching rebounds for us.
Oh, that's great, man.
It was the perfect situation.
Yo, imagine being an NBA player. You just have people rebounding for you. That's probably the best part. In addition to the millions of dollars in
Yeah, that part's cool. Like we just have
having
really
rebounders.
We have a really low bar. Just like if someone's gonna catch rebounds for us while we shoot, you know?
Yeah. Man, Sunday's gonna be a crazy day because not only you got Stack Market with Tangerine's layup event, you also have the women's final, as you mentioned. You also have the Raptors Nets game. Come on now.
Come on now, indeed.
And by the way, if you actually are trying to tune into history, the Capitals' next game, where Alexander Ovechkin could potentially score and pass Wayne Gretzky, is actually on Sunday at 12:30 a.m. Eastern.
Thanks for writing a couple of packs for me this coming Sunday too.
Let's go.
Let's go. All right, let's get to some questions here.
Okay.
Let's see. So it was a really good Jacoby game, and Jacoby's just performing so well. Can you see a scenario next season where Jacoby is the lead 6-man over guys like Grady and Shead, assuming we do not draft a top 3 pick?
So, I mean, I think it depends on what you want to define 6-man as, because the way the Raptors run offense, it's not really what you would typically see for 6-man. Like, for example, when Lou Williams won the 6-man award, one of, I believe, 3, the first one here in Toronto in that 14-15 season, the offense was like, okay, it's now the bench, and then Lou Williams is going to run pick and roll, ISO, and he's going to carry the offense. You know, the Raptors just don't really do that for anybody, you know, in general. So it's hard for one person to get funneled all the possessions. At the same time, if you're telling me 6-man in terms of like who's your leading scorer off the bench, somebody who you can usually promote into the starting lineup and get a fair number of starts to play with the starters as well, I think Jacoby's a good candidate for that. Grady has shown, to be clear, Grady has shown more offensive outbursts than Jacoby has, right? I know that like that's so many months ago, but Grady Dick had like, you know, I like, let me just quickly look up how many.
Early season Grady Dick was a problem.
Dude, that was the number one story for the Raptors at the start of the season was Grady Dick. Grady had a 32-point game, a 31-point game, a 30-point game, 2 27-point games, a 26-point game, a 25-point game.
Some of the
3
craziest
22-point
finishes
games
you ever saw. Yeah.
Yeah, that's 10 20-point games, including 3 30-point games. So I don't feel like we should just like discard Grady immediately. I actually really like the idea of him being with a gun for the second unit, but as the best overall offensive player amongst the 3, assuming Jacoby continues to get stronger and works on his handle and works on more of his shot creation, I think there's a real competition to be had there. And I think that's what's really interesting, because long-term, when you look at the shooting guard position, the Raptors actually are really, really stocked on that front, and they're actually probably going to handcuff them a little bit in the draft, considering there's so many shooting guard types towards this top of the draft that, like, in that range where the Raptors might pick, it's like you really have to think about, okay, VJ Edge comes on the board, but how do we actually find minutes for him based on the guys that we already have? And if we draft him for best talent, which could very well be the case, how are you going to be able to find those specific minutes for him? You know what I mean? But ultimately, it's a great question to have. You know, great problem to have.
It's a good problem to have at that point. And I mean, not to belabor the thing too, it's just we haven't even had Brandon Ingram come into the mix. And we've even had open conversations about if Brandon comes in, what the roster looks like. We might try to convince RJ to come off the bench and be the 6-man that way too. So,
I mean, my only thing is like, how do you really convince RJ that Jacoby Walter or Grady Dick should start over him?
Absolutely.
Or even Ochai Agbaji. And
absolutely.
I just don't think that until they're better players than RJ, I just don't think that that's hard. It's not easy to sell that to RJ, especially
it's a hard
going
sell.
into a contract
especially
year, et cetera,
having such a good season, all that. All right, actually building off the Jacoby thing here, just because we've been so impressed. If Jacoby was healthy all year, would he have had a chance at making an all-rookie team?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Jacoby, the biggest thing that's helping, that's outside of his control, but the draft class just isn't that strong. You know, it's not like it's impossible to be one of the top 10 rookies of this year's class, considering just how much this class has failed to produce. I mean, it's not like the one clear cut, for example, future all-star in this draft.
Sure.
Like, am I wrong? Like, is there somebody that you saw this year who's a rookie that you're like, this guy's for sure going to be a future all-star?
I can't even name what the all rookie team would be. So yeah, no, that's not the case. Yeah.
Actually, this is reminding me of a funny story where we were at NBA All Star, and part of the NBA All Star obviously is the Rising Stars Challenge. So they had all the best first and second year players at the thing, and I was like, oh, let's just ask every player who should win Rookie of the Year.
That's
Remember,
right.
I made you and Alex go around
That's
and ask
right,
everyone
that's
for Rookie of
right.
the Year, and you guys had told me that you guys went to Brandon Pajemski.
We did.
You went to their press availability, and you're like, Brandon Pajemski, like, who do you think is gonna be Rookie of the Year? And what was his answer? And how long did it take to get there?
I forgot what his answer was, but I do remember it took him so long to get there. It
Like
was
a
actually a
minute.
soundbite. It was like a soundbite we wanted to actually add into here, like a sound drop, because we just have him on a mic going,
Hago?
yeah, right. Shout out Zach Edey. But yeah, no. That content idea got scrapped real quickly.
I think that sums up like the rookie class.
Exactly.
At the same time, if I were to give the all rookie team right now, I would probably give it to Stephon Castle, Alex R, Zach Risache, Jalen Wells should definitely be in there. And that maybe Zach Edey, maybe that could
Okay.
be the starting five.
Sure.
But then you have guys like Dalton Connect, who was nearly traded, but he is averaging 9.1 points per game this season. He's played
Nice.
72 games.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I think there's a chance Jared McCain gets in. I mean, he only played 23
right.
games,
Oh my
but
gosh,
he
yeah.
was a real sensation in those 23
was.
games.
He would have been in the mix for Rookie of the Year had he stayed healthy.
Yeah, for sure. Bob Carrington started turning on recently, and he just had a 32-point game, I believe. He's played 77 games, so I guess he hasn't missed a game all season. That's really impressive. Guys like Kyle Filipowski, I mean, we've seen him torch the Raptors recently. Kalel Ware, he's turning around second half of the season. He's played a lot more. At the start of the year, he wasn't playing as much. Yves Misi was pretty solid all year, but Jacoby's kind of right there on that bubble. He's
Sure.
competing with like Keyshawn George. He's competing with like Isaiah Collier, who has averaged probably the most assists per game for this rookie class. He's had 6 assists.
Right.
By the way, Jamal's third in rookie assists this season, which I think is
Jeez.
really impressive.
Yeah.
And he's kind of competing with Jamal, actually. Jacoby is. So I think ultimately he misses out. If there were a third team, I feel like Jacoby
Okay.
would be on there. But maybe the only thing that holds him back is the 51 games played. But if to the point of the question, if he'd been healthy all year, I think the quality of the player that he is, I think he actually is a top 10 rookie from this class. So I would actually give it on him. So, yes, I will give it to Jacoby. Because why not, man? It's free. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Exactly. Yeah, well, it is interesting too. Like Grady Dick got into the rookie sophomore this year. He wasn't in it last year. Obviously, depending on who our draft pick is, and I think trying to get involvement for the Raptors next season at the All-Star, like we have a couple of rookies that will be sophomores next season that could be in that mix again to like be in that contest for sure.
Yeah, no. Next year, the goal is to get at least 2, if not 3, based on who the Raptors draft pick is going to be.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. What else do we have here? You did mention about some of the drafting and how potentially we could be kind of overloaded in particular positions. Do you think we are destined for a 2-for-1 or a 3-for-1 trade? All the players we're going to have to play in the future looks a little scary.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's part of the upside of being able to draft well and make a couple of nice additions here. I think one of the things the Raptors did was they took an all-star player in Pascal Siakam and they divided his value amongst multiple players. So if you look back at that Pascal Siakam trade, that's how we got Jacoby Walter, which was obviously a pick that was courtesy of Indiana. That's how you got the space to take on a Brandon Ingram and the pieces to trade for Brandon Ingram. That's part of that trade. Ochai Agbaji is another one. They took another pick that they got in that trade. They flipped them to Utah. They got Ochai. So it's like you've taken the value of one all-star and you divide it into like multiple other pieces. And of course, that does obviously create an opportunity where you have more at each position. And yeah, I think Masai's ultimate plan, if he has one, is yes, he wants to see the team grow as is, and he wants to see the group like get some time and gel and grow. But we all know that the team on paper, no matter how they gel, is not some sort of championship team. It's not even like a guaranteed playoff team, right? So like night in and night out, like guaranteed top 6, I wouldn't say that the Raptors are guaranteed with the roster as is, no changes, to be at that level. And so that's where the consolidation trade, where you've now improved the value of a guy like RJ Barrett, who coming into Toronto was, labeled as a toxic asset. He wasn't an efficient player in New York. Now they've fixed the efficiency issues. They've given him a more playmaking ability. He's defending at a higher level. He's improved his value. You know what I mean? They've improved the value of a guy like Ochai. They've drafted well, so those guys are appealing now to other teams because they can fit roles. And now all of a sudden, you have the situation where eventually you're going to run into both a roster crunch with how many guys you can pay and how many guys you can actually keep. But the good part of that is they have now more things to trade. And generally speaking, I've liked the value in which the Raptors front offices have been able to return on trades. It's not like you look back at the OG trade and you're like, damn, we got fleeced on that one. We didn't. In the Pascal trade, it didn't look great originally, but when you look back at it, especially now you got Ingram, you're like, they really get fleeced. You know what I mean? Right. So I think the Raptors actually have replenished their asset base, and I never want to talk about players as assets because I'm invested in them as human beings. But I do think that the Raptors are really primed for one of those trades where if a star player shakes loose and, the Raptors always sniff around, they sniffed around on Dame, for example. They sniffed around on KD when he came available. I mean, Giannis might come available. I'm sure they'll sniff around on Giannis. They're just, they're just like, what's out there, man? And then whatever. Ultimately, they probably won't get them. They're probably not the favorites. And quite frankly, those stars are never going to put the Raptors at the top of the list of like, I want Toronto more than anything else. Right. But at least the Raptors have built up enough assets to at least like be considered in some of those cases.
I mean, it's like one of those things that is so far down the road and so many things have to go right, but it is that kind of development and adding value to each player that should you ever be in a position, you can trade a couple of those pieces for something like a Marc Gasol to help you take you all the way to like an NBA championship.
Or Kawhi. That's the trade that everyone talks about.
Yeah. All right. Up next here, we saw Detroit tonight. We talked about Alperen Şengün in Houston. Question, Detroit and Houston have really turned it around. Should Toronto follow this blueprint?
I'm not really sure what the blueprints necessarily are in both cases. I think what's different about Toronto's rebuild versus other teams' rebuilds is that, like Houston's rebuild, for example, that started because they moved off of James Harden. And they pivoted to a hardcore tank. They were one of the worst teams for like a 5-year period. And then they were able to draft a lot of pieces and then create the cap space in a tax-free state in Texas where there's no state income tax. They were able to create a bunch of cap space, and then they were able to, snag, Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, right? And Jeff Green as well. Those three guys brought veteran leadership to the locker room, stability to the team. They hired a new coach who was really, really drilled in on defense, and they were able to start winning in addition to the young players hitting maturity at the right time, and then obviously invested in the right young players. Like even Jalen Green looks pretty good. You know what I mean?
Sure.
By the way, he had 34 tonight against OKC to lead all players.
No wonder they won.
The Detroit Pistons were worse for even a longer period. They won the number 1 overall pick. They got Kit Cunningham.
Let's not forget their season last year.
Their season last year was crazy bad.
It was
they had a
crazy
28-game losing streak. And then they hired a new coach. They brought in some veterans, and they had the head coach focus on defense. And more than anything else, the Pistons are a defensive team. So I think maybe the commonalities are that you need to really get a young team to play defense, and then you need to bring in a couple of vets. The Raptors, for me, are totally different because the rebuild, as everyone knows, was a little bit delayed, and then they never traded for like all these future assets. They traded more for like players who can kind of play now. If you look at the Pascal trade, the guys who are in the team now are Brandon Ingram and Ochai Agbaji, and then you look at the OG Anunoby trade, and that directly led to RJ Barrett and Immanuel Quickley coming back. Those are not future picks that the Raptors have tanked multiple seasons to get at.
Yeah, we haven't really done a hard reset, at
we're
least
not doing
intentionally.
Reset.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
And even this season when they were like, hey, be prepared. We're rebuilding. We're using the word rebuilding.
Sure.
Jakob Poeltl's like, yo, it's not important that we win games this year. I'm like, all right, cool. Like, that's great. And then you go into the year, and even now they're like, we'll probably get like the 7th or 8th pick.
Well, I forgot it was if it was a fan comment or where it came from, but it was like a note of like for a team in the Raptors position that is like communicating that they're rebuilding, they also have these like really big long contracts, which is not something that you would normally have for a rebuild.
Yeah, exactly. Because all of a sudden, part of the benefit of a rebuild, especially like a Houston, for example, they were able to draft all these players because they tanked. And they made other moves like Şengün, for example, like that was a trade of a pick. But ultimately, they were able to draft these guys. That means that the value of these players, the contracts are low, and then you have the cap space to sign guys, right? When you trade for existing NBA players and you're already on their second contracts or in some cases third contracts, that is going to make it much harder for you to use the cap space avenue. However, given that, I also wouldn't critique the Raptors on that because the Raptors are very unique. We're not even a market like Houston where they can actually sign free agents, right? Yeah. Raptors never sign free agents. So cap space is much less useful for the Raptors as compared to pretty much any other team in the NBA, I would say. Like, I think, honestly, cap space might be the least valuable in Toronto.
Right.
More than anything else.
This is not a question, but a comment. Just want to thank you for doing all these React pods this season. Help made a bad season a little better. Can't wait for the next season of Hell and Welcome. Well, we're not done yet, but this is a very kind thing to hear, and maybe something that we even need a reminder of as we're going through these and slogging through any number of them. But thank you, Late to Class, for that.
I love this, man. Thank you so much. Late to Class, you've been in the chat all season, providing us great questions, and thanks for the love, buddy. I hope you make it a class eventually.
Yeah, one day you'll get to that class. We mentioned, I think, on the Q&A with V, but when are we getting the Jeremiah Fears breakdown? We're going to get a lot more breakdowns on the show. The season will be over for the Raptors in just over a week. And at that point, we're going to be very much leaning into, we'll obviously do some playoff coverage. We're looking into even some playoff watch parties. We'll probably do reacts here and there. We're too sick to not do that. But we will be definitely leaning into a lot of draft content and into like the different players and looking at all that. But Will, Jeremiah Fears?
Yeah, he's a player that I want to look more into. With all due respect to guys like Concanipple, it's like you watch like 2 or 3 games, you watch a couple highlight reels, you're like, okay, I got a pretty good idea of his role, what he does well. And I think the strengths and weaknesses kind of pop out at you. With a guy like Fears, I feel like you got to study a little bit more of the team context, and then you need to not just watch highlight reels, because the highlight reel is going to look great for a guy like him. He makes certainly tons of tough plays and stuff like that, but I want to be able to watch over the course of the game what moments he attacks with, what reads he's making, and sort of like see not just the hits, but also the misses with him. Overall, though, super talented. I mean, 6'4" guard. Maybe has potential to be like right up there. Like he could be like a diet Dylan Harper, maybe even just based on like how talented he is. Yeah. He certainly got a really impressive reel. But yeah, I mean, somebody who reclassified, so he's like pretty young relative to the rest of the class. To be in this year's class, plays for Oklahoma was like their highest usage player by far. Basically, it was like we could reclassify to play at Oklahoma and be our like number one guy. And for a guy who was put in that position, I thought he actually did quite well. So there's a good reason to be optimistic about him, but I do want to look a little bit more closely at him because I do feel like there's probably a little bit more nuance to be gained with Fears in particular, but certainly a very, very exciting prospect.
Yeah, I think similar to the breakdown.
High upside right. For sure. Yeah.
Similar to the breakdown that we did this past week. I think we just want to find like more just like broad footage as opposed to a highlight reel, because I think that's where we kind of get a good idea of what they look like in the span of a full game.
Right, exactly.
All right. Here, we'll go to this as our final one. What would need to be true for promotion/relegation to become part of the NBA? Is this something that you would go for?
No.
Okay.
I think people when I don't mind the idea. I think I certainly like the idea with the English Premier League. I think it really incentivizes people at the bottom to be competitive as much as possible because they're literally fighting for their lives to be able to stay at the top league. That really affects how they do financially. That affects their ability to keep their players. It's just huge. In addition to playing in a better league. The reason why it works, especially and most prominently in the English Premier League, is England has I'm talking about hundreds and hundreds of clubs. And obviously of varying degrees, you know what I mean? Like Manchester United is probably a lot bigger than like Plymouth Argyle, you know what I mean? Or but even the city of London alone
The
probably
sheer
has like
scale requires relegation and promotion, is what you're saying.
London alone might have like 40 professional teams playing in various leagues, and that includes obviously like 7 or 8 at any given time in the top flight.
Every major city has at least LA Lakers and Clippers, and then some.
Yeah, exactly. No, seriously, like even Liverpool has a Lakers and Clippers, and Liverpool's a small city. It's like maybe like 1 or 2 million at most, maybe 1.5. It's like even they have 2, and they're both historic teams in Everton and Liverpool. So it's like the depth in which soccer is loved in the United Kingdom is like entirely different than like the depth to which in basketball infrastructure exists in the United States. So like right now they're like, okay, maybe we'll expand, maybe we won't expand. It looks like Vegas might get one. It looks like Seattle might get one. They might talk about putting another international team. Maybe they try Mexico City. Although I don't know, they got to go through customs. I mean, I don't know. They speak a different language over there. I think. Oh, by the way, I think it's kilometers over there too. You know, like they got to learn what a centimeter is. Oh, these Americans got to figure out a liter. Oh my God, milk comes in bags. My kids are learning Spanish. Like it's so pampered, but that infrastructure doesn't exist. You would have to invent that infrastructure for that to exist. Versus in English Premier League, it's like a lot of that stuff already exists. Like there are obviously the top flight is like by far and away the most profitable, but like second tier teams are like really well attended. You know what I mean? I think what really shined in examples of this is like why am I blanking on the team? But the two Americans who bought the team.
Wrexham.
Yeah, Wrexham. Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
Wrexham.
yes.
Wrexham was like Division 4, Division 5, and you see the documentary. There's like tons of fans of those games, and that's Division 5. That's like a high school team. Like that. I think what Eastern Commerce made their way up to like the NBA. That'd be crazy, man.
Yeah, I think what you're saying there too is there just has to be culturally like a way different approach for that to even make sense as a thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and also NBA teams are like the reason they're so valuable is because that like there's so much TV money given to these teams, and if there's even a chance, let's say the Detroit Pistons have a chance because they won 15 games last year to be relegated and they lose billions of dollars of value, they would never allow that. So this would not work.
It would be impossible, near impossible. Speaking about near impossible ideas, I've been thinking about it recently just because I've been paying attention more so to college basketball. I have no idea how it works. It would work. I know it probably would never work. You'd have to change everything about how NBA transactions go. But if somehow we could figure out a way to have a transfer portal in the NBA,
I suppose that's free agency. I mean,
I think that is free agency, but there is something funny about the idea because we'd have like Jimmy Butler enters once again in the transfer portal, or James Harden once again enters the transfer portal. I just like the idea of like for some of the chaos that happens because it's like because the thing too with a transfer portal differently from like a trade request is like I guess you don't have to honor a trade request.
Yeah, you could
but
just
like for a
ignore it.
transfer portal, it's just like I just want to leave and go somewhere else.
Yeah,
it'd be insane. Like in the middle of a season or something. Well, I guess it always happens off season, so that is free agency and things like that. But like opting out and things like that. But I think more than anything too, I just like the term transfer portal. So we can just like insert it somewhere. It just sounds good.
I would like a physical portal. You know, like who's that Asian guy in like in Marvel? Like he just like draws a circle and people walk through it or whatever.
Oh, you're talking like Doctor Strange and all that. Yeah.
No, but isn't like a
Wong? His name was actually just Wong.
He's just Wong.
His name is actually just Wong.
Yeah. That'd be like if a superhero was just named Steve. Yo, here comes Steve. He can fly.
But yeah. He's the Sorcerer Supreme. Wong.
He could do taxes. It's Steve. Yo, it's just Wong. Oh man. Yeah, shouts to Wong. I actually really like Benedict
Wong who plays Wong. Yes. That's Wong, right. You got there. You got there.
No, I actually really like Benedict Wong, man. Great actor. He's in The Three Body Problem. He's in Marco Polo as well, which I really
right.
This is like the series is like 8 years old now, but I really like
Well, because people always when they talk about Wong, because in Marvel he's like a bit more like rotund, but like he's like crazy skinny in Marco Polo, right?
No. He plays Genghis Khan, so he's big.
Oh, he is big in that too. Okay, never mind. I take.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
back.
yeah. No.
I think in other roles he's been like skinnier.
He's a chunky guy.
Yeah.
But shouts to Benedict Wong for playing Wong. I feel like if Jackie Chan just played a guy named Jackie.
Ooh, how about this as a suggestion? Should basketball be able to adopt from soccer the ability to loan players from non-playoff teams to playoff teams?
I actually like this.
I like this. Yeah, I'm not
I
against
like
this at all. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, for example.
Okay, here's the question that might not be: how many people? Who's taking loans out from the Toronto Raptors this season? Which players? Who would you take?
Jakob Poeltl should 100% be
sure.
loaned.
Yeah, that's a good
one. I would love to see Jakob in a playoff setting. I would love to be able to cheer for Jakob and that team that he goes to. Let's say Jakob went to I don't know, let's say he went to the Dallas Mavericks because actually they have is centers. Never mind, but
sure.
Let's say he went to the Lakers. I would be
went to the Lakers. Exactly.
I'd be cheering like crazy for the Lakers if I saw Jakob over there. And then we know that we can get him back at the end of the year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because the year I'm thinking about
I guess the problem with that too is the idea that if they get injured in the playoffs, that costs your team afterward.
Yeah.
But I like the idea. I honestly like the idea.
You know what? I think it would help for players to essentially I guess stay in one spot in a way that feels more sustainable. For example, the year that we got Marc Gasol to win the championship.
Yeah.
It felt like a loan because I feel like Marc Gasol should be a lifelong
The year that
Grizzly.
we got Kawhi Leonard felt like a loan.
Oh, that was that was a loan.
That was a loan.
All right, fine. Give us DeMar back then afterwards. Fine,
yeah,
that's
there
fine.
you go.
Kawhi leaves, you get DeMar back. I'm actually completely fine with it. It might have been a bit awkward, but even the Tampa year when the Raptors were tanking the first time, and it was they rested Kyle down the stretch, and it was all right, well, might as well give Kyle to whoever who's trying to go for the playoffs that year, and then we get him back. You know what I mean? It kind of sucked that it's okay, he's either leaving or he's staying, and most times they choose to leave because they want to chase it one more time. But it's but that's Kyle, man. That's our family.
That would change up so much strategy throughout, because there'd be so much tampering. I think at that point too.
There would be, yeah. You join the team,
it'd be
and then they're
crazy tampering.
Hey,
well,
but
not just
you wish
that,
you came
but
to the Knicks?
But I just even the idea of player tampering, but I think also GM to GM, president to president, the deals that they would probably make of hey, we're looking to tank this season. We'll put this person on hold and keep them healthy so they're and they'll get enough reps for them to be available. Yeah, this would be really messy, which is why I love this idea.
But you know what, the thing with loaning in the system of that in European soccer is that a lot of the times, if a loan is successful, they just have clauses where you're able to buy the player outright.
That's right. Yeah.
And I feel in that sense, that could be cool. Like a guy like Marcus Rashford, for example, who was a big star, for England, big star obviously for Manchester United. He came through the academy. He's he's a Mancunian, everything like that. And then recently he fell out of favor with different managers. He's also been less productive. And then so they just loaned him out to another team in Aston Villa, and Villa had a bunch of injuries and then needed to stay in Champions League, whatever. They just needed a striker, and they brought him in, and he's been great. And all of a sudden it's well, there should be a great chance for him to just be straight up bought and kept at Villa. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, something like that would be kind of cool.
It's an interesting concept.
It's like a trial in a way. Yeah,
it is a trial in a way. Yeah, I love it. All right, that covers that. We're on to our awards for the night.
Let's do it. Raptors Pistons, the game of the night.
Right.
In Toronto, at least. Because the Blue Jays also lost.
Also, update. UConn's definitely going to the final because it's 2 minutes and 32 seconds left, and they're up 76-46.
Yeah, way ahead of you, Jerome. I've been watching it on a
there you go, buddy.
all I've seen so far is just a lot of Paige Beckers being excited on the sidelines. So very happy for her to be able to have a chance to play in the championship game. Super cool that she's recovered all the way from her injury and everything like that.
That's so awesome.
Your 3 stars from tonight's performance. First star is Jacoby Walter, 22 points for young Jacoby. One thing I really like too, in the high five line in their starting intros, players do all sorts of weird hijinks and stuff. And when Jacoby's name was introduced, Orlando Robinson was just doing a pump fake thing at him, which I thought was very much Jacoby's go-to move is to pump fake in the lane. So I thought that was really cute. But Jacoby had a great game, 22 points, 3 steals for the young shooting guard. Your second star, I'm going to give that to Jamal Shead, 14 points, 9 assists. Thought he did a really good job of running that second unit. Sometimes he's actually playing a lot with the first unit. Him and Jacoby, I thought, were the two best players for Toronto tonight. And then your third star, give it to Cole Swider. He finally hit a couple shots, which is nice. 10 points for Cole in 15 minutes. He had been really cold, and it's admittedly it's difficult. You come in as a shooting specialist, but you only have 10 days. You're brand new to the team. It's like, who is this guy? And if you don't make those shots, it's like now you just look like you don't do anything. But we know he could shoot, and tonight he knocked down his shots. I thought he was played really under control, made a couple of nice baskets, attack closeouts as well. Cole, if it doesn't work out here in Toronto, I hope it does somewhere else as well. But certainly it seems like the Raptors like him, so maybe there's a chance he gets another 10 days to finish out the year. We'll see. Your Gerald Henderson award winner, that will go to Tim Hardaway Jr. It felt like he was that backbreaker for Detroit. I mean, the whole starting lineup for Detroit played well. Everybody scored in double digits. Dennis Schroeder probably was the worst of the five, and then he came alive in the fourth quarter. But Tim Hardaway Jr., I mean, he knocked down a buzzer beater towards the end of the first half. Big swing play. The Raptors got a wide open three for AJ Lawson. He missed it, and then going the other way, Tim Hardaway Jr. Threw one in. So yeah, he was kind of devastating tonight. 23 points for THJ. Raptors getting cooked by THT. They're getting cooked by THJ. It's coming from all over the place. But thanks everyone for listening.
Oh wait, last thing here.
What up?
Since we do have a set final, who are you picking for UConn in South Carolina?
Man,
I'll go UConn. I've been riding with UConn the whole way, so I'm just gonna go with UConn.
I'll be rooting for UConn, but
for sure.
I don't know, man. South Carolina's had such a great program recently. Like this is like the literal battle of the absolute heavyweights.
I know.
And man, it's like the dream final, really. I feel like honestly, the NCAA got their dream finals too. Like if Duke especially advances.
Obviously, like the only
side
thing is like Juju Watkins' injury and like not getting that with like USC, but otherwise, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll go with South Carolina.
All right. And one final check-in. Again, a reminder on the Raptors odds for the upcoming draft.
Oh, man.
One more time. Pie graph for the chat. Will.
I can't wait to make more pie charts for the show.
Yeah, we're just going to have to do all sorts of pie, just nonstop pie charts.
As you know, Alex especially, but me as well, like we're both big fans of the Bill Simmons podcast. And one of the Bill's like random tropes is something called blame pie.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Are we gonna do? You're not gonna do an end of season blame pie, are we?
Nah, that's not really to blame.
you know,
nothing really to blame for the
season. We're
season.
Not gonna blame anyone, but yeah.
No, but like a situation like, for example, the Luka trade happens, and then you'll be like, okay, blame pie.
Sure.
You know, for the maps.
But
who's
do they ever
responsible?
do it like mathematically, like break it down in percentages?
Oh no, I think that's the thing. They need me to make them
they
a couple of
three
Google Sheets
Asians to do the math.
Yeah, somebody with the Google Sheets knowledge that I clearly don't have. But slap together a little blame pie. You know what I mean? Like, it's 60% Nico Harrison, but it's like low-key 20% Patrick Dumont, the owner, and then like a 15% slice to like, Mark Cuban, and then maybe like a small, because no one really says this, but like a little sliver, like a little 16th, a little eighth of a blame pie. You give that to Luka himself. Because
Luka has to get a little piece of the pie.
Here's the thing about I guess Luka is completely skated by on the Luka trade, but I was watching Lakers Warriors last night, which was a pretty nice finish. Pretty crazy for a while. They were just trading like bomb threes, and I'm like, damn, I watched the Raptors all day every night, and these guys could just pull up from 30 at any given point, and it's like Brandon Pajewski and Steph Curry and Austin Reeves. Like, I can't believe what I'm watching. But I was watching that game, and I was just like, you know what, Luka, like, you should be a little bit more responsible for yourself. Like, you're too great of a player to be in that poor physical condition, and to the point where anyone even remotely considers trading you. Like, we all agree that it was an insane trade, but you hold some of that responsibility of yourself, man. You owe it to the game to be at your very best when you're at that level. Like, to be honest, I don't care if like 80% of players in the league aren't reaching their potential or whatever. It's like, fine, whatever. I'm not gonna freak out if like Jamal Shead doesn't reach his full potential. Like, it is what it is. But the all-time greats, like, I think it's actually, you owe it to the game of basketball, if you're that talented like Luka at that young of an age, to maintain and stay focused. And like, I don't want to see this version of Luka where he's like getting outplayed by LeBron, who's 40, and getting outplayed by Austin Reeves on a pretty consistent basis sometimes.
Right.
And it's like, Luka, you're too brilliant to have these games where like you just look like a you just don't.
I think some of the problem
right.
is he's too brilliant, so he feels like he doesn't need to do that.
I don't. Listen. As a former gifted kid, I've known many people
Sure.
who like just skate by on being gifted. Guess what? That shit doesn't last forever, man. And more than anything else, you got to live with the lifetime of regret. Luka, shape up, man. Seriously.
Okay, we're gonna
shape up. You
close
get
out the
a bit of
show.
that splain pie, buddy. No,
We're
seriously.
gonna
Don't blaming Luka is crazy. No, listen, you're responsible for your own career. You should never be in a position where people want to trade you, man. Like LeBron maximized his career at every single step. Nobody ever thought, oh, let's trade LeBron. Nobody.
Right.
That's on you as your career, man.
Okay, so the last thing we're gonna do here, because we are approaching 90 minutes on it, but for fun, I loaded up the page. Why not do this? Let's do one draft lottery simulator.
Oh man! Oh, this is a great segment. We should do this every time.
We did actually get a suggestion in the chat, and we're gonna start it today. So let's do this right now. Give me a number. Who do you think? Where do you think Toronto's landed?
This is why I don't agree with Jason Lee, who also said before blaming Luka is crazy. Blame Joker for being fat. No, I actually credit Joker for changing his whole body and becoming really, really well conditioned. And that's what elevated his career. He turned himself from being a super talented guy to being one of the greatest players of all time.
These are really great
Luka
points.
To do the same thing, man.
Oh yeah, no, that's a great point. Anyway, do you want to give me what you speculate? What do you think after we sim this right now? Where do you think Toronto's gonna fall?
I'm gonna crash out if they're 8th, which they're at 8th. So let's sim the lottery here.
Yeah. No, give me a number. Give me a prediction before I sim.
It's like a 1 in 3 chance they're 8th, so I'm gonna say 8th.
Okay, here we go. And
let's go. We're top
number 4 pick, baby.
Top 4. Might potentially the most awkward place to be in the whole draft, actually. Because the top 3 is pretty set with Cooper, Ace, and Harper in some sort of order between Harper and Ace. But number 4 is like, it's like, you got to make a big swing on somebody that you might not necessarily be that sure in. So
there you go.
Top 4 is pretty decent though.
So at the end of this React pod, the Raptors have mocked the number 4 pick. So congrats to us. All right.
There you go. Okay.
There you go.
Well, thanks everyone for listening. Jerome, I like this idea. Let's do it again. Let's roll
We'll do it every episode that we get a chance to. Yeah, we'll draft sim it. Yeah.
Let's do it again on Sunday. But I appreciate everyone for listening. Go follow Tangerine Hoops. Go follow, go write a review for the podcast. Send it to us on the email. There's a chance to win 1 of 3 pairs of tickets for the final home game next week. Come out to the event this weekend where we will be at Stack Market on Sunday from 12 p.m. To about 2-3 o'clock. Win some tickets and ultimately just have a good time, man. Seems like a big sports weekend coming your way. Thanks everyone for listening. Big thanks to Jerome for holding it down. Fresh 6-pack, just the way Alex would have made it. And Alex, I hope you're enjoying your vacation. I haven't talked to him. I don't know if you've been talking to him about wrestling.
We talked a little bit about wrestling today, but very little. I sent him a photo of a Rockefeller jersey that I found at Kensington Market.
Oh man,
there you go.
There you go.
Shopping.
Alex, I hope you're enjoying that time.
We love you, Alex.
In La Belle Provence. And otherwise, this has been the Home Welcome Podcast presented by Betway, and we will catch you Sunday afternoon. See you guys then.